Yeah, so can you introduce yourself and tell us about your work, what you do?
Hi, my name is Olan Collardy. I am a cinematographer specializing in short form content. So that includes, music promos, commercials, short form commercial content, and also short films. But I suppose the goal is to go into features in the very near future.
What do you prefer? What do you like the most? Music videos, commercials?
Um, I'd say I'm more of a narrative guy. So I started off doing, narrative work, shooting short films. Then shortly after I got signed, I suppose the plan was to, jump into the short form content was the music videos and commercials, just to, I guess, build up your network in that space, and also short form content. The turnaround time is, shorter. So if I shoot a music video today, it will probably be out in a month, maximum 2 months time. And when that video comes out, that's something that can be marketable. So it gets your name out there quicker, rather than focusing just on narrative work, which it's a slower burn, even though the rewards are longer and bigger. It's more rewarding doing narrative stuff, but because the turnaround time is so long, just getting traction, especially when you're getting started, getting traction in that world can be quite difficult and slow. So for me, the short form work is more of a tactical. It's more of a tactical approach to build that traction. Also, I suppose because short form work is such a fast turnaround. You can do a lot in a short period of time. So from a cash flow perspective as well, it's a good approach. Because ideally you want to have a good balance between doing commercial work and narrative work. Yeah.
Mm. And are you based in some agency or are you freelancer?
Yes, I am a freelancer, but I'm repped by an agency, Vision Artist, who are based in London. I have been with Vision for about over 2 years now. So I joined them in February, March 2018, and it's been such an amazing, journey so far. I think there are huge pros to having an agent. I can't really think of any any disadvantage to having an agent. Others might disagree, but it's been a great journey. Just having someone help you curate your journey as an artist. Someone who's able to advise you on the kind of jobs you'll be doing or taking depending on where you want to go, and also someone advocating for your pay. As you might know or might not know, you're in the freelance world as a creative. Creatives are the worst business people. So you will usually follow your art and your heart to shoot something that isn't paying you, but because you love the idea, and at the end of the month you've done like 10 passion projects, and you haven't been paid, or you've done a commercial and you've been paid a not so great rate, because no one's really trying to pay you more than they can get away with. So you're just having someone who's advocating to ensure that you are being paid your dues, and also someone who's campaigning for you to get the kind of jobs you want to be doing, and has a network to do that. I think that's one of the great things about having an agent.
It's good that you can focus on your art. Like you don't need to deal with all
Yeah,
that stuff. Like
exactly. You don't have to deal with the politics, or arguing with a producer or your beloved director that you can't do the job because the pay is bad.
you're gonna be the
That's
good one. You're gonna be the smiley one. Like, oh yeah,
yeah.
it's not
Turn
my
up on
fault.
set.
It's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. You turn up on set and you're smiling, and the producer's probably looking at you and hates you. But it's not you who was fighting for that money. Whereas if you had been the one having that tug of war with the producer, I think the energy and the vibe will be different when you actually see each other on set. Yeah, so yeah, if you can get an agent, it's something you should do, and if you don't have one, it's something worth working towards.
And in the beginning, when you were starting and you didn't have an agent, did you know like for how much you can ask? You know, for the rate, like
In
did you
terms of
know your price?
in terms of your pay as an artist, how much you should be charging. I mean, I didn't know, and I think that was one of my biggest issues when I first started working and earning as someone who shoots. It's like people come to you or email you and go, "Hey, I would like to have you on this project. What is your rate?" And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, what should my rate be? Because no one talks about money. No, you don't have, even if you have friends, you don't say to each other, oh, I charge X for this project, or I charge this for that.
But I don't know why is that. I have no idea why people
Yeah, I
charge
know. This
no
is
money.
this thing. This is unsaid rule, especially like in British culture. You just don't talk about money.
Anything.
Yeah, so you just have to hope whoever you're dealing with, has that respect and honor to pay you, not to, yeah. But yeah, ideally, yeah, it would be good to have like an agent. So I didn't know then. I just kind of worked with people who I'd like to think were, fair to the best of their abilities. And, someone goes, I've got, I remember doing this project where the producer asked me, are you okay with us paying you this amount? And the amount that was proposed to me then was like 5 times the amount I'd been getting paid on other projects. So in my head, I was like, sure, that's fine. And then when I got paid that amount, subsequent projects, I was actually, if I was paid that amount on that project, so maybe I should start getting paid this amount. So I think you grow in terms of like your rates or your rate card over time, without an agent. But when you do have an agent, there are industry kind of like rates you have to adhere to as a working cinematographer, I suppose.
Yeah. So the agent, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about because I think you're one of those who has like strong style. Like if people watch your work, they can say like, "Oh, that's Olan," and in my opinion, so how you keep your style, because okay, now maybe I know a bit because you have the agent and she kind of
Yeah.
or him, I don't know, they decide
Yeah.
like what's the best for you, what would fit you, or how does it work?
In terms of developing a
Keep your
style,
style.
is that what you
Yeah.
mean? In terms of, it's. I'd like to say largely it's good to have a style. And there are people who would say don't have a style because if you have a style, you paint yourself into a corner. But my advocacy for having a style is, as an artist, you need to have some kind of signature. As you know, there are lots of artists, there are lots of cinematographers, there are lots of DPs who you can bring into a room and they can light the room. If you need someone to hold a camera and shoot something, there are thousands and thousands of people who can do that and do that exceedingly well. But what I'd like to think, or how I'd like to work, is I like working on projects where I feel like my voice is right for that project. And, as an artist, your voice is something you find at some point. You find it and then you keep on developing it. And at some point you might feel like you need to change your style, maybe because it's getting stale, or you feel you're starting to just turn up and doing the same thing over and over again. So sometimes you need to reinvent yourself as an artist. But I don't think even when you reinvent yourself, you don't need to totally reinvent the wheel. It might just be you starting to use a different paintbrush, even though you're still using the same color, or even though you're still painting the same thing. So there's still a way to keep your voice the same without losing it. your voice is more than the camera you use, or your voice is more than the lens you use, or more than the colorist you use. I think your voice is something personal, and your voice is something that's a byproduct of your experience as a human. So what you saw when you were a kid, the kind of music you listened to, the kind of friends you kept, your aspirations as a child or as an adult, your parents' aspirations, the textures you grew up around. I mean, what did your house, your childhood home look like? The color undertones. Those are things that subconsciously feed into how you imagine things. Like if you're telling me a story about a kid in Spain, reading a bedtime story. In my mind, I'm thinking about that kid and what that room looks like, and what that room looks like is based on my experience of what I think Spain looks like. It could be when I did go to Spain, or what I saw on TV, the kind of textures, and my vision of Spain, or how I think Spain looks, is different from what Christina thinks Spain looks like. And that's why, I think, even though we are all doing the same thing, our styles and our visions are different, because we have different DNAs and we grow up differently. And I think that for me is what a style is. Now, whether I shoot that scene of that kid in Spain on an Alexa using some vintage lens or whatever, it's still me trying to recreate my understanding of what that scene should look like or feel like. And I think that's where your voice comes from as an artist. It's all down to your experience as an individual. And in this current day and age, it's become quite tricky, because we're all on social media, we're all looking at the same pictures, and we all, liking the same pictures, we're all watching the same music videos, the same films, and we're drawing inspirations from the same places. So there is that tendency for people to start having the same style. And I think as an artist, when you start seeing yourself either, bending or catering or, emulating other people's style, I think it's worth, taking that time out, or disconnecting from whatever is imposing this style on you, and, go back to who am I, what kind of style do I like, and then, find your voice again. So I think for me, that's how you as an artist would find your voice over time. And, you also need the right avenues to do that. As a DP, we don't create the stories we tell. We are brought along someone else's journey, like a director's journey, who has a firm understanding of what they want the world to look like, and they look for the right, artist and the right DP or the right cinematographer to tell that story through. And so it can be quite hard to eventually find your story, but I think you need to be on the lookout for directors who share the same artistic fiber as you do. So let's say, for example, I like to think filmmaking is kind of like jazz. I was in a band, so I like music. So I like to equate filmmaking to playing in a jazz band. And jazz comes in all forms and all styles. And if you're a jazz musician trying to put together a band, what kind of rhythm you like, and you would look for band members who kind of fit into that style. So you as a director might be the drummer, you set the beat, and then you have a bass player who's kind of who can play that kind of rhythm and enjoys playing that rhythm, or a singer who can riff to your rhythm. So I think that for me is like, you have to be on the lookout for directors who share the same kind of style. Otherwise, if you just work with anyone and everyone who would pay your rate, you would eventually lose your voice as an artist. So it's quite key to be quite selective with who you work with.
Now I have so many questions to ask. yeah, so you kind of covered like from where you gain inspiration, like from your previous experiences and like how you were raised and your culture and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But
Mm-hmm.
you have some other place where you gain the inspiration from, like let's say, I don't know, some of your favorite artists, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
can you tell us some names?
Well, in terms of like things or people that I find inspiring. So I think for me, my inspirations, I mean, at this very moment, are, visual. So that, photographers that and I don't, it doesn't have to be like, old school photographers. I mean, I could sit there and say I like, Soul, like latest work, or I like Roy DeCarava's work. I think for me, my biggest inspiration is a cinematographer called Bradford Young, who I'm sure everyone kind of knows. And I think for me, what I find inspiring about like him is the fact that he's managed to merge his work and approach into like his soul. So you can't like tear apart, or you can't separate where the work starts and where his soulfulness starts. And when you look at him and his like philosophies towards film, you can see how that influences the work he does and who he does that work with. And looking at his filmography, where he kind of started the kind of projects he was doing, like indie projects, whether it was, Mother of George or Pariah, all these, low budget indies, and how he, stuck with his collaborators, like I said, his directors, whether that's Andrew Dasumu or Ava DuVernay. Like, it's these directors who he stuck with, creating these work that moved the needle of culture. And it's those directors that, I mean, in my opinion, brought him to the center stage. Like, he did Selma, he ended up on the at the Oscars, and then the whole world was like, oh, cool, this Bradford Young guy, who is he? And then people started delving into his back catalog. In the indie circle, yeah, every like indie DP probably was a big fan, but when it came to like the commercial space, they probably didn't know. But it's sticking to these directors who share the same voice as you do, in terms of the kind of stories that resonate with you and your soul. That's what got him where he was. He didn't get where he was because it was chasing directors who shot Nike commercials or shot car commercials, and he shot the commercial of the year and then brought him like center stage. I mean, there's nothing wrong in shooting Nike commercials and car commercials. But I think what gives you longevity is when people can see and feel your soul and your character and your work. And I think for me, he's probably one of my biggest inspirations, because I just see that, and I think it feels like if you follow your heart and you can blend your soul into your work, I think people will connect with your work. And when I say connect, it's not just, oh, Bradford shot that. It's like you feel Bradford shot that because you feel there's like
Feel that
this
energy from
DNA in the work. Yeah, not because he underexposed it like 10 stops, or kind of shot it with a far side key. Yeah, there's like an imprinting like he has on his work. And people say, oh yeah, no, yeah, it looks like Olan shot it. Like, when I shoot, I'm not thinking, oh man, like, what do I do all the time? Or let me use this lens, and if I like this way, people would know. It's just me kind of like I said, it's music. You're just playing this tune that you like, and you somewhat imprint into your imagery, and people resonate to the imagery based on that. So yeah, he's a massive inspiration of mine. I mean, there are other things I go to for inspiration, like photo books, and always watching like movies, just to kind of like feed my subconscious. And also, I like storytelling as well. So yeah, by doing all those things, yeah, I do find inspiration. And I mean, there's also inspiration in the real life. I've got a young family, and spending time with them. Sometimes, yeah, it just helps you reconnect with your humanity. And yeah, that itself is some kind of inspiration as well.
Yeah, that was a nice answer. Yeah, I want to ask, like, what do you think is trending now in music videos? Let's say in UK, like not too general, but in UK, is there some trend which you can see?
What's trending at the moment? I mean, we all love shooting film, and I think that's been trending for like a minute. Actually, it's been trending for probably close to 2 years now, and it's like yeah, people shoot Super 16 to get that organic feel from film, and I guess yeah, it's a cool thing. Yeah, if you shoot on film, yeah, that scene has been on the pulse. So yeah, I think that's trending at the moment. I think the mixed format thing is still like a thing. Where you shoot on film, you mix that with digital, you mix that with stills, and have some typography on the work and fast cuts. I think that's still a thing. Whip pans and yeah, things to keep people's attention kind of like gripped. I think directors who are doing that at the moment are doing quite well. So I think yeah. I think that's that's what I think the cool kids are doing at the moment. Am I right? Will you agree?
You are.
Yeah, but I'm keen to see what the next Rubicon is for the cool kids.
Because I had the interview before with one guy, one friend, and we were talking like in UK you can see now, like in music videos, there is some style, like there is some inspiration from the 70s or something, and it's just like kind of, you can see it a lot. I mean, I love it.
Yeah,
but
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I was just curious about your opinion. I would like to talk about one of your projects.
Okay.
Don't you know by now?
Yes.
One. Yeah, can you break down some of your favorite scene from the music video?
Yeah, so don't you know by now is a music video I worked with for an artist called Maverick Sabre, and it was directed by a director who's now a friend of mine actually. She's called Fen Amili. Yeah, she's I think she's got an extremely bright future. Just like again, coming back to when you create from an organic, pure place, I think you would create what people resonate with. And I think she's similar to myself in the sense of she didn't go to film school. She one day decided she was going to work in film, and yeah, she's just worked really hard to get herself to where she is. And I think true talent, you would recognize that whenever you see that. So yeah, Fern is someone I've worked with a couple of times, and she hit me up to say I've got this wonderful video I'd like to shoot with Maverick. I'm a fan of Maverick's work as well. Maverick is also we've got a mutual friend, a film writer, director, actor called Thea Gayet. And, Maverick had been, talking to me, or at least messaged me maybe like a year or two ago saying we should collaborate on something. So when Fen had reached out to me to say I've got this track with Maverick, and Maverick is, so excited that you're shooting it, and that you finally get to work together. So yeah, it was a meeting of minds who were in the same space and wanted to create something beautiful together. And Fern's her perspective on the video was to create something that felt like a series of like feelings. So the video had this ethereal kind of like moments that feels like a memory, but not something you can quite get hold of. Yeah, that was a feeling of this feeling of like a flush of like memories and like feelings, and just being sensory in nature. And so that was her brief and her approach to the video. I think for her, she also likes shooting film, not because it's cool. I think it's because For her, there's just an authenticity that film brings to her work that she doesn't get from shooting digital. So one of the things was, we're going to shoot on film, and like I said, make it feel like, just a series of sensory experiences. So you had film as a parameter. You had, like I said, a series of films. It was also, I think, just after the lockdown had been lifted in London. So I think we shot July the 1st or 2nd. Yeah, either that or it was the first week in July. So like I said, COVID had just, the COVID lockdown had just been, relatively eased. And it was about how we can create something that we can produce safely given, the situation at hand. So we had to reduce the number of people we had in the video. So it was down to just, two people, which is Maverick and the girl. The other thing was,
You had the idea of more people. Initially, it was the idea like you would have more people on the set.
No, I think she wrote the treatment was like having a sense of that you were experiencing things, and I guess you can do that in so many ways. And I think maybe her producer hat while writing that treatment was, how can I simplify this to Maverick and this girl. I guess the other parameter was that it wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot of money around, and what Fern was trying to do was shoot 3 things in 2 days. So shooting 3 pieces. So we shot essentially 2 videos, and she was planning to use materials from the 2 videos to make like a short film at the end with some additional stuff. So it wasn't just a case of just creating one music video. So it was meant to be a holistic short film that was then broken into 2 music videos in the edit. We didn't have a lot of money to shoot 3 things. So we had to think wisely about the number of stock we're going to use, the number of film we're going to buy. I think we had about 10 rolls of film initially, which affords you about 110 minutes for 3 videos, which is not a lot. So you have to be really precise about how you're going about your scenes and what was being shot. So again, it wasn't like a massive crew. I think I had just one person in the lighting team, just because there wasn't a lot to light. I think there was only one interior location, which was the house, and it was a 4th floor location. So I couldn't put like a big light outside without having to pay thousands of pounds to get like a team to do that. So we had to think of clever ways to light the space and give it that feeling and texture of light and shadows. I had to be really smart and savvy about how I was able to create that look, given the fact that we didn't have a lot of money and we didn't have a lot of people. Again, COVID, you can't have too many people on set. It was myself, the first AC, the loader, and the gaffer. In terms of people who were under my department. It was also about how do we break the videos into a series of scenes. So how can we ensure our music videos isn't just like in one house? And we thought we needed some external locations, just so you have some rhythm and cadence in your. You have some rhythm. You have some rhythm and
the only party we can have at the moment.
You have some rhythm. You have some visual rhythm and cadence in your music video. So we had to plan more locations, some exterior locations, and make sure each locations looked different. I think the biggest find for me was that tunnel shot, because Fern really wanted a tunnel shot. Yeah, Fern wanted a tunnel shot, and we just couldn't find one. I think we couldn't travel to have like another unit stay to go shoot that tunnel scene. But fortunately, I think the producer had found some tunnel, I think about 10 minutes drive or 15-minute drive from the location, which, she just sent up, she showed us that picture while we were on set and said, hey, what do you think about this tunnel? So we hadn't done a recce, we just turned up there. And there was this serendipity whereby there'd been like some parts of the tunnel was flooded, and the lights in the tunnel, again, it wasn't lights we put there. For some reason, the lights, they were just colorful lights doing wonderful things there. So it was by rocking up there, I looked on my light meter, do I have enough light in this space? I don't. But hey, when you shoot film, I mean, film is all about like feeling, and, film is organic. It's like you don't always need the perfect exposure. When you shoot digital, you don't always shoot at what your light meter is saying. You probably overexpose or underexpose as you like. And I think I was maybe 2 stops underexposed, and I'm like, no, well, I think that should be fine. And just looking at the scene with my eye, I just knew, okay, you have them standing next to that water. You might have some, reflections of them in that water. I mean, the water was quite dirty. That's why it was black. And you had this black water, and then you just see that the reflection in that water was just like beautiful. Ideally I wanted to, step them further into the water, but the water was quite deep, and it was like, no, yeah, they can't stand in that dirty water. But yeah, we tried our best to find a great composition and find the place that worked best for lighting. And then we shot that shot, my Steadicam op Grant. No, not Grant, my Steadicam op Gary, he was able to, get that shot. We stopped a really wide-angled lens on the camera just to exaggerate that feeling of movement towards the couple and just have this moment of, I guess, this solitary moment between those two characters. And I think that just really felt magical in the edit. I have to give huge props to Fern, who's the director. She's just able to articulate what she wants, whether that's to her crew or to her on-screen, I guess, talent, the artist, and Bar, who was the model, who was playing the female lead, and just the way she was able to get them. Yeah, there was just something that felt very very kindred about the two people on screen. It felt like they'd known each other for, I don't know, years, but they'd only just met on that day. And I think, yeah, that's a testament to just how Fern is able to create like an inclusive atmosphere on set where people are just, they feel at ease, and yeah, the vibe is just right. And yeah, it was just, a bunch of people who share the same values artistically and also as humans, being on the same set. Like I said, there was a mutual respect between myself and Maverick, who's the artist, mutual respect between Maverick and Fern, mutual respect between Fern and myself, and I had that mutual respect with my crew. So it was just a bunch of people who like working together, who respect each other's artistry, and just being like, hey, here's what we want to create. Let's play the music and let's all kind of like vibe and riff with music.
And how's the pre-production in this case? Like how you were preparing, how your creative process looks like in pre-production?
Yeah, so Fen sent me the treatment for the track, I think 2 weeks before we shot. And, like I said, we've worked together, so she kind of gets how I work and I get how she works. But I think a part of me just felt some kind of unease about, I don't want us to stand up on the day and, we didn't have what we needed, or the room didn't feel right, or the room didn't have, the right atmosphere for our characters to, do what they needed to do. So I think when I saw the location, my first thing was, this location is like just white walls. There's nothing I can do here. I can't create a mood. I can't create an atmosphere with, a white walled room, and I can't really light from outside. So my hands are tied here. And, the battle I had to fight was the fact that Fern really liked the location because she likes the simplicity, the fact that it's this white walled location that was quite blank, and she felt that blankness was like a blank canvas to throw the artist in and let them impose themselves in the space as opposed to a space that already had that character, and the character of the space was almost already kind of like painting and tainting how we should see the characters in that space. So for me, it was like, I don't know, I really just can't turn up to this white wall location and shoot. It's not going to have that feeling. So what I did was I put together a document. I always put together these things that are called DP treatments. So a director will send me their treatment, and I'll send my treatment of how I see my interpretation of what they are, looking to do. Because I'm sure you've seen a plethora of treatments. Some treatments are very visual, and it lists out what the director wants, how the location should look, what the art department should be. And some treatments, like Fern's treatment in this case, was very feeling led. So there were pictures that were not location pictures. It was just like, oh, here's a picture of how I want the moment to feel, not necessarily this is how I want it to look, or this, because if you send me a location of a picture of two people hugging on the sea, I know we're not shooting in the sea, so it's not really a visual reference to me of what we are shooting. It's more of a feeling thing. So I put together my treatment based on this white-walled room, and I'm like, hey, we're going to shoot in this white wall. I'm going to need this thing on the windows. Maybe let's just infuse some colors in the windows, just to like infuse some kind of feelings in that world. Maybe put some nets on the curtain to maybe cream out the light, so we're not seeing outside of the windows, or ways to bring down the intensity of the light coming through those windows. And I think we wallpapered, I think one of the walls in the room, just because we couldn't wallpaper. We didn't have enough money to wallpaper we didn't have the money all the time to wallpaper the whole room. Also things like, oh, this is how I think the light should feel like when the girl was on the bed. How I wanted the light to kind of like hit the face and the textures. So I sent that to Fern to say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Are we on the same page? And she's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking. And she then sent me her own kind of like visual mood board, which is very similar. But yeah, that's just like one of the things I like doing in pre-production, writing my DP treatment as a dialogue starter. So my DP treatment isn't hey, this is how I see the film and we have to shoot it this way. It's more here's how I see the world. Let's start talking. Is this what you think? What parts do you like? What don't you like? What can we take out? So yeah, it's a dialogue starter, and yeah, so we did that, or I did that on that job, and that treatment, I was able to send that to my gaffer to say, hey, you see the feeling in this room. Here's how I want the light to feel. This is kind of light I'm thinking of. What do you think? What light do you think we're going to afford to hire on this job based on this this treatment? And the same thing we're able to give to the production designer. So it's just one of those things that's just really good to do to ensure that you are communicating, correctly and effectively with your crew. Like I might say to you, I think this wall should be green. Again, my interpretation of what green looks like is what your interpretation of green is. So if I can show you a picture and say, hey, I'm thinking this kind of green, then we're on the same page. So I think it's always useful as a DP to create documents you can share with, your director, and the same, if your director likes it, then share that with your gaffer, your AC if they want to see that. The production designer, just to ensure that everyone's on the same page. Yeah, so that document I would say kind of drove the discussions about how we should go about shooting the scene. The other thing I would say we did in pre-production is just working out from the fact that we had 10 rolls to shoot and we had 2 video to shoot. We had to shoot 2 videos using 10 rolls. So, theoretically, maybe 5 rolls per video. 5 rolls is about just under 1 hour. So you almost have to break down the video into, say, 5 parts. And so we're going to spend 1 roll when on this road. I'm going to spend 1 roll in this room. I'm going to spend 1 roll on the stairs. I'm going to spend 1 roll in the tunnel. And then, so just really ensuring that you don't get to a place whereby you're shooting and you've run out of film and it's like, we can't finish the film. So I think that would be the other part, which isn't so fun, I suppose, because it's like, you budgeting, film to segments in your music video. So that's another thing we did during pre-production. And I'm a big fan of spending time doing that in pre-production, because when you get on set, you're just doing, following a plan, I suppose. So you're trying to plan on set. And, I'm sure you've been on set of a music video. It's not a place you can think straight or think effectively. So you create your film in pre-production.
Mm-hmm. And how you are involved in post-production during the editing? Are you involved, or do you have some?
It varies from director to director, I suppose, in this case, because Fern is a friend of mine. And it's a project that I was personally invested in, and I tend to be personally invested in most of the projects I do, if not all. She would be like, "Oh, okay, I've started editing this video. Oh, this is what it looks like. Well, what do you think?" And I then have the agency in that sense to be like, "Oh, that looks cool. Well, how about this thing we shot? Have we tried that?" So I was somewhat involved in the edit, more from a feedback perspective, as opposed to having to kind of like co-edit or something. It was more, "Oh, I think this works," or I don't think this works. And Fern is someone who's incredibly gifted. I mean, she started shooting her own stuff and directing her own stuff and editing her own stuff and sound designing her own stuff. And I'm sure she probably even graded her own stuff. So I remember when she started editing the video, she sent it, someone else was meant to edit. It was meant to go to an editor, and I think the editor had a pass at it. And I think Fern just felt she wasn't really connecting to the edit, and she had to, take the edit from the editor and, edit it herself. And I guess that kind of maybe gave me more of a window into that process, because it was her editing, and she would ask, "Oh, what do you think of this?" So I was somewhat involved in the editing, but like I said, from a feedback perspective, from a colorist perspective, something most producers and directors will do is involve a DP in the coloring of the piece. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, sadly. But in this case, she did ask for some great references, which I did, and we sent it off to the colorist, and the colorist did the piece. There was some feedback I had, but we eventually got it to a place we liked, and we sent it to Maverick. He had a different take on what the film should look like. I think he's more of a fan of more kind of muted tones and something that feels a bit less contrasty. And, that to some people is like the end of the world. Oh my God, he's going to take the contrast out of my work. But I think for me, again, it comes down to people just being on the same wavelength. And I remember when, Fenn was like, "Oh, Maverick wants to change the grade and go for something low contrast." And I think my first thing was, I think it works, even though it's low con, and you might ask yourself, was this thing graded? I think it still works for the tone of the music. I think the music and the spirit behind the music is something that's tender, and it's about feelings. And I think when you start adding too much contrast, I think you lose some of that tenderness. And, I was like, I think it works, and I think because I think she was thinking, "Oh shit, like what's Olan gonna think?" Like the fact that we're going with like a low con look, and I was like, I think it works, and that's what I mean. It comes down to if everyone who's on board is on the same page. you know, not on the same page as to what the plan is. He's on the same page as to what the spirit of the work is. Like the spirit of the work. I think when someone says let's go this way, it's not going to turn into a battle or fight because if you're all on the same page, you should be staring each other in the right way. So that was my experience in that promo. I had some insights and some window into the post production, and something that to the average person DP, it will be the end of the world if someone removed the contrast in your work. But I think for me, I just think it worked for what the video was.
So good, like you're at the same page because like I have the experience because I'm still studying, and if we have some collaboration and some project in team, is just we are on we are not at the same page at all. Like everyone has different kind of view, and so can't wait to have some team where we are gonna be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, you would eventually find that team because I guess as an artist, when you start your journey, you might start with people who share different views. Like say you're doing your teamwork, and everyone's maybe someone wants to make action films, and you want to make like indie films, and someone wants to make comedies, and when you put all those people in the same group at school, it's like you're fighting so hard to preserve your voice, and the whole thing as well is like using that time and that experience to teach yourself how to work in a team. Because in as much as you might or want to make indie films, when you're on set, maybe someone wants this version of Blue and this person disagrees. It's about how can we start learning to make compromises as a team, and how can we learn how to influence other people in a team by articulating and being able to speak your voice, and being able to back the reason why you think something is right for a project. So if I'm saying I think green works for the color of the wall, why do I feel green? Is it because this story is about birth, and I think green subconsciously does that? Or it might just be a case of green soaks up a lot more light than yellow, and if we use a green background on this skin tone, the skin tone is going to pop a lot more on the green background. Or it might just be it's actually cheaper to buy green paints than yellow paint. So it's more being able to articulate why you think something is right, as opposed to I just think green is the right color. I don't know what you're not going to win over anyone in that sense. So I think sometimes when you're forced into working in a group with diverse and different and varying opinions, I think it's that time when you can work on your teamwork and how to win friends and influence people, as that book goes.
Yeah, that's so true. Still working on it, but
good luck.
What are you working on at the moment?
Yes, I've just finished like I said, I've just finished a short film with a broadcaster in the UK, Film 4, and the project went well. I'm going into shooting a documentary actually for another broadcaster next week. I think we will be there for 4 days. So my next piece is a documentary. I wouldn't say documentaries are my first love, but I think the approach with this documentary feels more like a hybrid. So we do have control in some sense, and there's an element of like telling human stories. So I think for me, and it's telling human stories that I care about and I'm passionate about, the representation of these particular set of people. And like I said, we do have an element of control. We can choose our colors, like the background, and we get to light some scenes. So that for me made the project appeal to me, and it's a director who we share a lot of things in common in terms of like our tastes. So I'm really looking forward to jumping on board that Monday next week. So that's me. That's my next.
Another busy week for you.
Sorry?
That's another busy week for you because you
Yeah,
just.
yeah, it's another busy week, but I guess the good thing is after that week, I'm going to go away with my family on a very short holiday. So looking forward to that too.
And we can finish it like this because I think we covered everything. And yeah, so thank you so much. I
No,
will
brilliant. Yeah, it's been a pleasure having a chat with you. It's always good to talk about your process and yeah, interrogate your subconscious. That's why you do what you do.
also one more question. I just forgot that if you have some advice or something you want to say for people who are just starting.
Yeah, I think for me again, it's just a summary of all I've been saying. I think for someone who's starting out, you have the gift of defining what you want your future to be. So one thing I would say is you have to be intentional. You have to. It's good to have some kind of understanding as to where you want to be, and that it's okay to change that as you go, but you have to be aiming towards something. So the first aim could be, I want to find an agent, right? That's a target that it's worth working towards. Then you start researching how you go about doing that. Then even if you don't end up getting that agent in your first year, at least you would have created work that you feel you're proud enough to show an agent, for example. So that might be one. The next might be, oh, I want to shoot something that ends up at a festival, which means you probably need to shoot a short film. And then that means you need to look for directors that shoot short films. And then that means you need to look for directors that shoot the kind of short films you want to shoot. So that's what I mean about you have to be intentional as to what you want to do and how you want to go about it. I suppose, okay, I want to become a DP, cool. And then you don't actually take steps or put one step before the other. It's not just a case of, I'm just going to go off and buy a camera and shoot stuff. Yeah, that's one step you can take, but you have to ask yourself, why am I going out there to buy a camera and shoot? Is that because that means I can learn in my spare time rather than having to go to a rental house to hire some kids? So yeah, I would say always ensure you have some short-term plan. Personally, I'm not a big fan of like super long-term plans because I think things change. Like COVID happened, someone was planning for COVID. But if you have short-term plans like 3 months plan or like a 6 month plan, I think those are things you can work towards and you can quite quickly I guess appraise yourself and see how you did in the last 3 months. Did I reach out to any directors? Out of all the directors I reached out to, how many meetings did I have with them? How many of those meetings turned to shoots? Yeah, so I think for me that would be my thing, just like intentionality, and that also applies to the work you shoot. Like when you just don't turn up to set and be like, hey, what are we shooting today? You should all turn up to set knowing exactly what you want to shoot and how you want to shoot it. And a way you can do that is, again, communicating with people. Like I said, that DP treatment I do, it's me stating my intention so that when we get on set, we are making what we've set out to make, I suppose, what we've set out to make in our minds. And, everyone on set has different minds and different interpretations of what the film ought to be. So, yeah, super intentional. And lastly, just find your voice. Like I said, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of DPs who can shoot incredibly good stuff. But what makes you stand out is your voice, because your voice is unique. No one can have the same voice as you do. I mean, they can copy your voice, but there's a difference between someone who copies your voice and someone whose real voice, also the person who has a real voice. So yeah, I'd say find your voice, and the only way you can find that is by shooting. Go out there, shoot. Review the work, shoot. Review the work, shoot. Yeah, and eventually you will find your voice. You'll find what you like, and you will start gravitating towards that. Yeah, it's just like a magnet. You would eventually find that. as long as you keep on shooting, reviewing, and be visible. Like there's no point in being great and being good if no one knows, right?
Yes.
Exactly. Especially if you want to get paid. Like,
Would like to.
yeah, that'll be my 2 pence.
Thank you for advice for everyone.